And I think being resilient is so important. You got to be prepared for the ups and the downs. Nothing in life is ever a straight course. There's always a twist and a turn. And
It was like an escape kind of thing.
yeah. And I used it to the point where it fucking ruined me, big time. I get really emotional when I talk about it now because I'm just surprised. I'm surprised that I've come through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. Yeah, just take your time. We can edit whatever you want out, so it's all
No,
good.
mate, it's fine. I don't edit fuck all.
Guys, welcome to the Resilient Businessmen Podcast Episode number 12. Just a quick update. My yearly goal for this podcast was to get 12 episodes in. I didn't think I'd have guests on board. It was a new idea, getting guys on to share their truths throughout life. So that's a quick achievement for me with this podcast. Today I'm joined by Robbie, who's going to share his resilient journey throughout life, and another guy who's in the property space as well, but more so developments these days. So Robbie, if you just want to give a quick intro and then we'll kickstart your resilient journey.
Yeah, sure. So Robbie Dunchow, construction business owner, property developer, entrepreneur, if you like, from East Anglia. Originally from Hertfordshire, London area, moved down these ways about 10 years ago. Started my journey in working for myself, and here I am now. So yeah, looking forward to sharing my story with you guys.
Yeah. And the reason I asked Robbie to come on was because of a post I seen months ago. So that's the power of sharing, just being open on social media, isn't it? Like, who knows where it can like lead to certain places, So
Yeah.
where should we start your resilient journey then, Robbie? Your childhood, was that a part of
mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends where you want to start, mate. Where would you like to start? What do you want to know about me?
Let's start from childhood. What did that look like for you? How did things go?
So yeah, typically normal upbringing, mate. Weren't nothing special. Council estate, working class family. But I was clever, did well at school. Always had a good social crowd. I was really clever at school. I enjoyed school to a certain point. Sorry.
What were you specifically good at in school?
Language. I was always good at English. Not so strong at maths. Not bad at it, but just not so strong. Very good at art, music. I was really into music and creativity. Yeah, that sort of thing, really. And then when I got older, I was raised by my mum. I was really close to my mum. Didn't have my dad around. He sort of left us when I was young. My mum had me when she was 14. So wow. Yeah, that was quite not my struggle, if you like, because luckily she had good supportive parents, my nan and granddad, who supported her when I was born, so she was still able to finish her school, do her exams and things like that. Nice. So I had a good family. My dad left when I was young. He had drug problems. He was only young himself. He was only 16 when I was born. So, wow. What were you doing at 16? I know what I was doing at 16. Yeah. We'll get to that anyway. But yeah, so that was sort of my upbringing. My stepdad sort of raised me from 2 years old after my dad left until him and my mum were together when they split up when I was about 15, and that was around the time I started going a bit downhill when I was in my early teens.
Yeah. Did that affect you at all? Obviously, it did.
It did a little bit. I never had my real dad around. My mum and stepdad used to argue a little bit. Nothing heavy. My old man was never violent. It weren't like that. It was more just the arguing, and it weren't a really comfortable environment to be in, to be honest. And it got to the point where it was like, I made my mum actually split up with my stepdad at the time because it weren't a nice environment, right, for me and my little brother to live in. And I sort of said, look, I don't want to live in this anymore. I think I was about 14 at the time, 15. They split up. And then my mum sort of like went through a couple of other relationships and this, that, and the other. We sort of muddled through. I was sort of fucking school up at the time and weren't really interested. I was sort of getting into other things, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. You name it. I was sort of doing drugs and drinking and getting in trouble with the police and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? I was
living your life on the streets, basically.
yeah, just being a general tearaway, mate. And my dad's side of the family was sort of like, I love them to bits. I'm not bad mouthing them, but they weren't like the straightest of people in the world, if you get me. I'm not, again, I don't ever really like, I try not to talk about it too much because obviously people are judgy, aren't they?
Yeah.
Generally. And when you start saying, oh, you come from a certain background, people take you with that brush. Do you know?
Yeah, I agree, Robbie. But like as you get older, you start to understand it more. You know,
Yeah.
like there's more sense behind it. Like life's not fucking easy, is it? So like,
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people are victims of circumstance as well. You know, people do what they've got to do. I get that. Do you know what I mean? So that's the sort of life I come from. I had like my mum's side of the family that were really working class, normal, straight laced sort of people, and then my dad's side of the family which weren't. And I sort of grew up with a angel and devil on my shoulder. Obviously, the angel wanted me to, you know, use my brain and go to college and do the good thing, go to uni and achieve what society sees as achieving, doing the normal thing, which I was more than capable of doing. I didn't actually go to uni or anything, but I could have done. You know, I chose the other path, self-destruction, and partying and all that sort of stuff because that's what I wanted to do. I was into playing guitar and in bands and stuff and making music and all that sort of shit. And that's the life I wanted at the time when I was a teenager, which I suppose most of us do, didn't we? We want to, you know, be movie stars or you want to be in a big band and all that sort of stuff. You got them silly dreams, didn't you? So that's what I was when I was younger. I was sort of a bit of I always wanted to do something big. You know what I mean? And that's what I say to a lot of people now is that I don't know what it was, but when I was younger, I always wanted to do something big. Didn't know what, but I always knew I was capable of doing something on a big scale. Do you know what I mean? Because I've got that drive, and you know, if I put my mind to something, I know you mentioned resilience, and I was thinking earlier what sort of questions you were going to ask me, and I thought, you know, he's going to ask, you know, what makes you successful and whatever, or what do you think makes you successful? And I think being resilient is so important. You got to be prepared for the ups and the downs. You know, nothing in life is ever a straight course. There's always a twist and a turn and a bump in the road or whatever. So I think you've got to be prepared for that. So yeah, that's what my childhood was. You know, and then my dad died when I was 18. My stepdad, who raised me, who split up my mum, who I was still very close to, he died when I was 18, and I found him dead in his flat. So, oh, yeah, that was quite a shit one. Again, I was young. I was 18. My brother was 13. We found him together. It was quite a horrific experience. I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, I kicked his door down and he was in there and pushed my brother out of the way so he couldn't see. And yeah, that was really fucking hard. You know, because after that I just had to be the rock for the family. Do you know what I mean? And I just sort of closed it all off for a long time, and just went into a bit of like hibernation about it all. I didn't really grieve properly. I just sort of I just went into myself and just coped, and got on with it day by day, thinking, you know, self-destruction and just coping and just getting through it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get through it at one point. It was really quite hard. Doctors and tablets and, you know, tried all that sort of stuff. Tried talking to people at first. It didn't really get me anywhere at talking about it to psychologists and people like that at the time because I didn't really understand what I was going through either.
Yeah, I've had experiences with that as well, so I'm resonating with what you're saying. Not to obviously the depth of it, I accept it, but yeah, I've been with depression and stuff. Yeah,
it's horrible. It's a horrible place to be, especially when you don't get it. And I was young at the time, and I was using drugs and alcohol as a way of coping. You know, and that was all it was. And my mates used to, you go out and party, and you're having a laugh, people having fun, recreational drug use they call it. But for me, it was never recreational.
It was like an escape kind of thing.
Yeah. And I used it to the point where it fucking ruined me, big time. I get really emotional when I talk about it now, because I'm just surprised. I'm surprised that I've come through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. Yeah, just take your time. We can edit whatever you want out. So it's all
No,
good.
mate, it's fine. I don't edit fuck all. I've got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm always up for being open, honest. If anything, I have to give my head a wobble sometimes and think, fucking hell, mate, you've come through that. You know what I mean? Just
Made you the man you are today,
yeah.
all lessons and blessings in disguise, aren't
Exactly that. And I have to give my head a bit of a wobble sometimes and just be like, mate, come on. I don't really it doesn't affect me like it used to. But I used to get really held up on things. I used to dwell on a lot of things. It used to really affect me mentally when things used to go wrong. Don't get me wrong, I still get a bit like that sometimes, but I've learned over the past sort of 15 years to understand myself, which is a battle. That's really hard to do, I think.
you? Yeah, most men haven't got very good self-awareness,
Nah,
it's
yeah.
just, yeah. So that
we're,
makes
we're
sense.
we're robots, aren't we, generally? And I'm not, and it's taken me a long time to understand myself, really. But now I'm proud of where I've got to, where I've managed to get to, coming through what I went through. So yeah, that was what childhood looked like for
I
me.
was going to say, before you dive into where you are now,
Yeah.
because it gets fantastic. It
Reeling
does.
myself back in now, mate. Yeah.
The transition from teens, obviously going through that rough period.
Yeah.
When did things start to like turn around? What was the turning point for you?
To be fair, it was the end of that long period, say of about since I was about 16 till the age of 22. So after my stepdad died, my real dad died of a heroin overdose.
Oh my God.
Right. This was about maybe a year within 18 months of each other. So that was we didn't have a great relationship. So that I don't really get that too held up about talking about that, because we weren't that close.
Right.
We had a relationship that we'd only just started building actually when I was a teenager. But he died heroin overdose. And around the same time, a friend I was living with, he hung himself. And
Wow.
and that was all within 3.5 years of each other, from the age of about 18 till I was about 21. And in the midst of all that shit, I was hitting the drink and all sorts every day, living life on the fucking knife's edge. Do you know what I mean? And all that on top of it, I was going to college at the time. I'd done a bit of construction at college. Didn't really like follow through with it. Funnily enough, I found it really easy. So then I went on to do music technology. Again, done that for a year amidst all this stuff that was going on. And then it got to a breaking point, to be honest, after that sort of three-year period of like when it got really bad. And I went to the doctors, and I needed some validation on how I was feeling, what I was going through. And I was open with them. I've been back and forth to them a few times over the years, but this was like a serious one. I sort of I explained everything and sort of told them exactly what I'd been doing to myself. What I was totally open and honest with them, because I needed to hear what I was doing to myself from a professional stance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he looked at me in fucking disbelief, and he was like, "I can't believe you're like holding it together, or how you've been like physically, mentally, literally holding it together." He said, "If you carry on the way you are," I think I was 21, just turned 21, maybe 20. He said, "You won't see like sort of past 23, 24 if you carry on the way you are." He said, "You're killing yourself, mate." You know what I mean? And that was it for me. I remember sitting with a pal of mine, and not long after that, and I was, just sitting there talking shit like you do. And I said to him, we're talking about something. I said, "I'm done with this, mate." I said, I'm literally I'm done. I said I need to get away. Next chance I've got, I'm getting out of here. And the turning point was when I met my wife online on Facebook. Actually, didn't know each other. Just started talking. She was from East Coast, where I live now.
Did you add her?
No, she added me. I want to fucking stick. I want to stick that right in there. Right? She added me. And it was actually because she was into music, I was into music, I was into hip hop. I used to make rap music and
Oh wow, fucking hell.
used to MC at raves and all this sort of stuff.
I
That was,
love that shit, yeah.
mate, that's what I was into, man. And she was into the same thing, similar crowd. We didn't know each other, but she saw one of my videos, I think, and I think she added me because me and my brother used to do it as a duo. So he's younger than me. And I think she see the video, like, and my brother had added her on Facebook already, right?
Are these on your Facebook still or not?
Huh?
Are these still on your Facebook or not?
Yeah.
I'll have a look after this.
Mate, I'll send you them. I'll send you them. Yeah, you can all. They're all on YouTube still. I've got nothing to hide, mate. I've got nothing to hide. So yeah, funnily enough, my brother added her. And then she must have looked on his profile, realised that she was a bit young. He was a bit young for her because she's actually a bit older than me, a couple of years. And yeah, I think she chose me second. But but yeah, that was it. And we met online. That was the turning point, mate. When I met her. We just clicked, man. And I'd been with the wrong people before, and for the wrong reasons. And all the people that I was with before my wife sort of taught me everything that I didn't like about a person. To be involved with it on an intimate level. Do you know what I mean? Like how I didn't want to be treated. Do you know what I mean? And it sort of like accumulated into like, right, as long as she can like tick these boxes, we're golden. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, she did. And yeah, the rest is history, mate. I just sort of used it as an opportunity to not only get to know a lovely person in my wife, but as an opportunity to start again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've got a fiance and I totally resonate with that. It's like just fitting into a glove just perfectly.
Yeah, and that was it. And I needed that, I think. So yeah, I moved away. Not too far away, or about 100 and something miles from where I used to live. So it's far enough away to be, totally start again and not know anyone and, just have another crack at it. Do you know what I mean?
It's
And
fresh slate, and then that's when you started your business, was it? Or
yeah, no, I worked now because I wanted to establish what I wanted to do first. 'Cause I didn't know when I first moved up, mate. I was still in the realms of doing music. I was working. Like, I knew I had to work to earn money, right? And labouring and doing stuff in the building trade was just natural because it's what I'd always done for cash money and like since school and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it was just sort of something I fell into because I knew it would be an easy way just to make some quick money at first. You know what I mean? And that was where my head was at in my early 20s when I moved away from home. I just wanted to get a job, and just cement myself and get some funnily enough, I'm talking about foundations, get some foundations down really. And ultimately, I suppose, suss out where or what was going to happen because I was moving away, new relationship. Obviously, I had best intentions of it working out, but obviously at the start of anything like that, you're always like,
apprehensive, aren't you? Yeah.
big commitment, like I'm moving away, I'm starting again. Is it going to work out? What's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. But I'm the sort of bloke that will just do things on the cuff, and if it works out, it works out. It don't. Do you know what I mean? At least you can say you tried. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know if you can relate. Like my parents split up. My parents are actually my biggest fans. They watch this all the time.
Good.
That made me second guess all of my relationships. Like
Yeah.
the common pattern I've seen. Like I've got trust issues, and like when I first met my fiance, I was like fucking it up on purpose because I was scared. And
Mate, I self-sabotage, innit? Like
yeah.
checking
Pushing them away, and you're like, this can't be true. This can't.
Yeah, like looking at their phones and who you texting and all that bollocks. We've all been there. Like, it's just we've all got them little insecurities, haven't we?
Once you drop them, it's like, oh, the weight off your shoulders. You just
Yeah, and don't get me, we've all got them. But once you meet that person and that's worth it, and accepts you for what you are, warts and all. Do you know what I mean? I'm not perfect. Fucking hell, I'd be massively lying if I said I was perfect. And I didn't totally straighten myself out when I met my wife. It took me. That was the starting point of me changing. Do you know what I mean? That was the changing point where I said, right now, this is my chance to start again. It didn't come without its problems. Like,
just a key point here, like most people like think change happens overnight. It takes time. So obviously you made the decision, and then it takes time to build the right foundations, as you said, and so
you've got to have that. You've got to be willing to accept that it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to make the right choices. Yeah, that's another important thing that I think a lot of people try to point the finger and blame. The blame culture is big, and I think not a lot of people want to take liability, whatever you want to call it, whether responsibility, be accountable for their own actions, whatever way you want to dress it up. There's so many people that don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I was probably guilty of that at one stage. Do you know what I mean? Like when I was younger and things were happening to me, and I was in the middle of it all, shoving shit up my nose and drinking bollocks and going, why is this happening to me? But then the mental part of it, like me losing my fucking marbles at a point, was down to my own self-sabotage. They were down to my own choices that I was making, Yes, it was a result of the things I've been through that I was doing the things I was doing, but I could have chose to act a different way.
Yeah.
Had I not chosen to use the alcohol and the drugs as a mask or a coping mechanism, I could have chose something else. I could have chose throwing myself into a sport or doing something like that. I didn't. I chose drugs. Do you know what I mean? And I had to pay, and choosing that was my own choice. I don't blame anyone for that because it was my own choice. But I had to bear the consequences of that choice, which were the mental problems that come with it. And I'm still scarred to it to this day. Do you know what I mean? Like I still have problems. I still get, emotional. I still get stressed. I have urges. I don't. Act. The thing is that difference is now is I've got the ability to not act on them urges. Do you know what I mean? I've got that mental strength to say no. I've got enough over here to focus on. I've got my beautiful kids, my wife, my family, my businesses. I've got a lot going for me over here. Why do I need to then distract myself over here?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So now I've got that strength to be able to say no to it. Whereas, 10 years ago, I didn't have that strength.
Yeah, that's key, isn't it? Yeah.
And again, that's a change that's taken time. Do you know what I mean? That's a change that I wanted to make. I knew I had to make that took me a really, really, really long time to actually be consistent in. Do you know what I mean? It's not a bit like dieting and getting healthy.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing. I struggle with that as well, but mainly because of time and being dedicated to that because I've got so much other stuff going on. And that sounds like a bit of an excuse, but I understand what the gist of it is.
Yeah.
I'm all for change and the longevity, the long game of it all. I get it all. I do get that.
It's when that reason why is strong enough. That's when you can change it. Obviously, when you had kids and your missus are like, right, there's no going back now.
Yeah, and then I will, with regards to my own health. I mean, I'm overweight. I do smoke. There's certain things about myself that I do definitely want to change over the coming couple of years, which I will do. I know I'll do, but I'm the sort of person that I won't be pushed into doing anything. I have to do it on my own back when I'm ready to do something. You know what I mean? But yes, it's pushing and having that reason. And my kids and my wife certainly are, do that for me. They're my fire, if you like.
Cool. So let's push this on to the business because a lot of men can relate because we talked before we press record, like some of your views on how stressful business was, etc. So let's talk about when you started your business. How did that go?
Difficult because obviously I was in a new area. I spoke to you before about always wanting to do something better and always wanted to be bigger and have more than just a wage. So I always knew that I could, sort of sustain that responsibility of running a business. I was always keen to the idea, so I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. I started it up with a guy that I was working with at the time for someone else and his little brother. We were just doing, groundworks and landscaping, and I had a view because of my music that I used to do. Always understood branding. Branding's really important, right?
Give it a little plug.
Yeah, look, that's me East Anglian Property Summit. But yeah, branding's key. You understand that, you know what I mean? So I always knew that I wanted to make it a bit more than just, me and some other guy doing people's gardens. I always thought, I want to push this a bit more. I've done it with my music, got to a fairly successful level with my music and my events that I used to put on when I was doing that in my teens. So I thought if I can just apply that energy and that, business model to my new business, then I can surely push that and excel. So that's all I did. And to me, it's transferable skill. I set up my music when I was younger, my brand. Used to push it, put events on, get people to come to my events, buy tickets, buy my CDs, all that sort of stuff. YouTube channels and all that shit. So I understood branding and building awareness around a brand, and I saw an opportunity for me to get stuck into something, and I needed something to focus on at the time. Like I said to you earlier, I just moved down to a new place. I'd worked for a couple of years for a few people around the local area. So by this point, I'd been living with my wife, and we'd been married we got married. So that was key. After being together for a year, we got married. So when you know, innit? So
absolutely,
we got married, and then after being together for about 4 years, not even that, 3 years, I started the business because I'd worked for like 5 or 6 different companies around here, and I don't know whether it's because I weren't from the local area. I didn't ever felt like I got accepted. Do you know what I mean?
You got a different accent or not?
That's it. Yeah, I have, mate. Yeah,
stand out like a sore thumb.
Proper, and I've got a sort of a London accent, and down here, they're all quite a bit like, don't sound like me anyway. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to offend anyone, but you know what I'm saying, right? And I did feel a bit like that, and I sort of felt, every person I worked for, I thought I could do your job better. And I know that might sound a bit pig-headed, and I'm not like that as a person, but I think to succeed, especially in business, in your area, you've got to learn from other people and learn what you could do better in order to be a better person and a better business, isn't you? Be better than your competitors or something, whatever. So it was hard because after I grew from that, me and the guy I started with fell out. And it was like the reason why we fell out is we were earning some good money at the time, and we scaled up and had like 12 guys working for us within like 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
And I went out and it's good. And I went out and got some commercial contracts, like on some big jobs. And that was me doing all that work. It weren't him. He was sat on his ass in the fucking digger. And I was going to the meetings and getting all the work, hiring the guys. My missus was paying the wages. I was going to work every day, working with the guys as well, not just running the business and building the business. I was working on site every day as well, right? And we did this for a couple of years, or a year, I think, maybe. And then we fell out because he tried to say to me, we need to start taking money out of the business every month, like profit. I was like, mate, that's not how you run a business, mate. Like, that's not how you run a business. So if that's
not in the early years, that's for sure.
Yeah, mate, we'd been running for like not even over a year, just over a year. I was like, mate, you're having a fucking laugh. I was like, that's not how it goes. I said, so if that's how you want to do things, I'm like, we better go separate ways. And yeah, we fell out.
What's your learning curve from that situation? I've never actually been in a partnership, but what's your learning?
It's a difficult one because I'm in a partnership now with other people in 2 other businesses now. And at the time, when me and him went our separate ways, I went like that, and I sort of thought, I don't fucking need anyone. I never have, I never will. I've still got that attitude to a certain extent, like, and I'll explain why probably in a minute. But I mean, my learning curve from that was just align yourself with the people and get your values in line first. Get your values in line first. If your values don't quite align, why don't they? Yeah. And if it's something that can be like agreed to be disagreed on, like if you just got a difference of opinion about certain things, that's fine. But yeah, I'd say it's important to align yourselves first before jumping into bed with someone in business. Because I didn't with that first guy. Had we like, spoke about our values and where we wanted our visions were, and had I realised that his vision weren't quite as big as mine at the start, I probably wouldn't have put my effort into having him fucking ride on my gravy train for a year and a half.
Yeah,
basically. That was the learning curve for me out of that, because I've got other business partners now, and I wouldn't say to anyone, don't, joint venture with people and business with other people, because, often 2, 3 or 4 heads are better than one,
Just like a relationship, innit? You've got to have the same values for it to last long term.
Yeah, I always say to them, I'm married 5 times, mate.
So what happened from there?
With me and matey went our separate ways. I then scaled up the business massively. After that, about a year after that, sort of in increments, I went up to having about 30, 32 guys at one point. Really stressful. Money was great. Work was coming in left, right, and centre. I physically couldn't be in 10 places at once, which was the ultimate downfall in the end of me having that many guys and trying to scale up it, because I didn't trust issues. It's what I spoke about earlier. I've got massive trust issues when it comes to trusting people to do things how I would do them, and basically fly your flag for you when you're not around. Because most people in that, especially in the construction arena, when you're working with construction workers who, again, I don't want to badmouth people, because there's some skilled guys out there, right? And without the guys that build the houses who actually do the skilled work, we wouldn't build no fucking houses, right? But in my experience of working on the tools as a ground worker over the years, on sites I've met thousands of people. People don't have a lot of ambition. Generally don't have a lot of drive. They think that going to work 5-6 days a week, maybe earning double bubble on a Sunday, is the peak of their career.
And it's a hard mindset to take in, isn't it? Because they've got the mindset now, and it makes me like, there's more to life than that. You can do more, but they're just happy and content, aren't they?
I was like that though, right? So I was totally like that, but only because I used it as a stepping stone. I always aspired to do more, but then at the time when I was working on the tools and working for other people, I was always working 6-7 days a week, always chasing the pound. Do you know what I mean? And thinking that earning a grand, £1,500 a week in my pocket was successful. Do you know what I mean? And I was happy with that at the time. But then I thought, hang on a minute, I'm not happy with that. You know what I mean? I'm working 7 days a week just to achieve that money. I've got vans going wrong all the time, people letting me down. I'm losing money here, I'm losing money there. It was just like I was burning the candle at both ends. So that made me sort of reassess things after a little while of going really big really quickly, scaled back, and then got a smaller team. And some of the guys that are with me now have been with me for like 5 years, 4 years. So I know them really well. I've got a team of 7, 8, sorry. No, 7. And the team I've got, I know really well. I know what their capabilities are. I've gone big really quickly. I've learned what I didn't want to do. I learned what I was doing wrong, which was important. And then scaled it back, and then realised that what's the next step. I weren't happy with where I was. I'd done the whole thing of doing loads of work and trying to be a big contractor and taking on loads of work, and it worked for a little while. But
Just a quick one, Robbie. What's your thoughts on the scaling thing? Because that's a lot of people's like next level shit. Like they'll have the business and they're like, right, let's scale. But then you've been through that and you weren't as happy. So
to be honest, if I'd have had my limits of scalability were damaged, probably because I had the inability to trust people.
right.
Had I got someone else in, the thing is, the problem that I had as well, is because I started my business in a new area, and the guys that I was hiring and were working for me, I met them when I was working for other companies.
Right.
So I'd already worked with them all on a personal basis. Like, I'm in the trenches on the shovel with these guys, right? And then come and work for me. Yeah. So they were like, it's almost like they've instantly got some sort of like jealousy against me.
Right.
Like, that I've managed to push a lot. I've had it so many times, and people that the sly remarks people say, like, you get the odd one that will tell you what matey's just said, or show you a load of text that people are saying about you and all this stuff. And I'm just like, you fucking all bastards. Because I used to help them out. I've lent people money.
Yeah.
Mate, I've lent people money. I've got people out of some really shitty situations. I've got people through training to try and better their careers. And they've just turned around and pissed on me, mate, all the time. Stole things off me, ruined my vans. Like, one guy actually, he was working for me on and off for about a year and a half. He stole my wallet out of my van and took £200 out of my bank.
Fucking hell.
But you know what I'm saying? I was, and this was at the point where I was scaling back down again, trying to find a good team, right? And these things were happening to me, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, and if any advice I can give someone is, if you're scaling up and you're hiring people, don't hire your fucking friends or people that you've socialized with,
Yeah.
or people that you interact with on a social level, because they try and keep you in that bracket when you're their boss, paying their wages. Like, try and be your mate all the time, or I was trying to be their mate all the time and trying the friendly approach all the time when they were late for work. I said, "Oh, it's only Rob. He won't mind. He won't mind if we're an hour late." And I'm like, "Are you fucking taking the piss, you cunt?
My business.
My business." And they're like, "Oh, mate, come on. I'm only an hour. Come on, mate." And all that sort of shit. And, I'd bollock them for not doing enough in a day. And they go, "Oh, come on, mate. You know how hard it is," and all this, that, and the other.
Yeah, it's like lack of accountability, isn't it? Because there's too much friendship vibe going on.
Yeah, exactly that. And I put myself into that trap, Chris, I think, because, I knew these guys and I knew that a lot of them were good at their job. So I got, that's why I took them on. But I knew them on a personal level beforehand, and it's sort of like you take that barrier away that you should have between employee and employer most of the time. I mean, yeah, you can get on with people, and there's no harm in having a bit of a relationship with people, but I was too far down the personal route. And because I'm the sort of person I'm emotionally involved with people, like, I don't know why people just gravitate towards me. They always have. And like, they come to me with their problems, and I'll give them a bit of advice, and then before you know it, they're ringing me at 11 o'clock every night, like with pissed out their head, going, "Oh, I can't cope with life anymore, mate," and all that sort of stuff. And I was just like, "Oh, like it's stressful, mate. Like, it's really, really hard." I've just got to plug in. Hang on. But yeah, scaling. Any advice I can give is, yeah, outsource other people that you don't know on a personal level, and have that barrier.
Set boundaries.
Boundaries, mate. Yeah, very important. I've had people ringing me up at 2 o'clock in the morning for a £40 sub.
Fuck hell. See you no more.
We all know why they're ringing me at 2 o'clock in the morning for £40. You know what I mean? It's a joke. So that's the sort of things I've had to put up with, mate. Yeah, it was hard. And any advice I can give is just stay away from getting involved in people's personal lives, because we've all got our own lives to lead, and if they've got to be accountable for their own actions, right?
Absolutely.
And
it's about ownership. That's it. That's a key point throughout this episode. It's ownership of your decisions, isn't it? Like,
yeah, and I've met so many people that are just not willing to do that, and I don't know why, and it really troubles me when I come across them sorts of people. And it's like, fucking hell, just own up to the fact that you're fucking being a useless cunt, and just have a backbone. Like, we've all got to fucking hold ourselves responsible for our own actions. Like, you can't go, if you're of sound body and mind, yeah, you can't go around doing some of the things that, like, I've seen these lads doing and trying to get away with, and try and blame everyone else for it. Like, it's you doing that. You know what I mean? Mate, this is a subject I could go on all fucking day. Like, you've opened up a can of worms there.
So where we go from here? Where's the final transition? Because
that's recent. That's recent. So again, the final transition from that point was, right, okay, I'm scaling down the business. I've gone from 0 to 100 mile an hour. Realised that going at 100 mile an hour was too fast. That was over the course of sort of 4 or 5 years. Then I realised, where do I go from here? I've been building houses and doing extensions and working on big building sites for many years for big contractors and clients. Why am I making someone else rich? Why am I doing that for someone else? Why do I not just take the small team I've now got, or I'm working towards having, and develop for myself? And that was natural progression. It's like, right, so now I want to stop contracting and stop working for domestic clients. I'm still doing a little bit of domestic work because it's, bread and butter sort of thing, until my developments kick off full time. But that was the transition, and the next step as to where I am now. coming from running the construction business and being a contractor, to being my own contractor on my own developments with my own guys, doing my own work with no end client, just a sale at the end of it. That's it.
Wow.
So
talk to me about your first development. Have you done your first one or not?
Yeah, it's just on the market now. We're just about to start our second and my third subsequently next to each other in the next few weeks. So my first one is on the market. So we got the plot for 25 grand. It was an assisted sale deal. I went through a mentor program. I should have probably started there really. Went through Andrew Hubbard. I don't know if you've heard of Andy, but
bald guy or not?
Yeah, little. He's gonna love that little bald guy.
I think I've seen him somewhere. I've got loads of property people on me.
Yeah, he's all over. He's all over it at the moment. Little bald guy, Andy Hubbard.
Shout out Andy if you're watching.
Oh yeah, shout out to Andrew because I love Andy and his wife Sam. But I went through Andy's mentor program after he does a 3-day course, networking event, if you like, where you go and then he offers a mentorship program. He doesn't upsell it. It's your choice if you want to go on it or not. I did. I met some great people, met my business partners on that event who I'm now in business with. Make sure our values were aligned before we got into business. We got to know each other, and now we're in business together. And yeah, and then my first development was with Ian. So that was my business partner. It was me and Ian who set up Goldbrook Homes initially after the back of Andy's event we met at. Dean and Frank come on about 8 or 9 months later. But me and Ian got an assisted sale deal. We done a refurb.
How does that come about? You say, you fancy this? Is that like the kind of conversation?
Exactly, yeah, because Ian's from up north. So I'm from East Anglia. Ian said, look, I've got a couple of deals in East Anglia come across my desk from a couple of people I know, because Ian's got a property portfolio. And I said, yeah, cracking. I said, I'll have a look.
Let's do it.
That was it pretty much, mate. And it was just like, we went into business, done a refurb on a cottage. We ended up getting a plot of land on the side for about 20 grand, and we've just built a bungalow on it. Yeah, we're starting another site in 2 weeks, building another bungalow and 2 semi-detached houses. And then I've got 2 more bungalows to start in about 6 months, and then a scheme of 27 units in South Lincolnshire next year.
Wow, there you go.
So that's my story, mate, to be honest.
From
0 to hero in 10 years.
So what's the vision? What's next?
The vision, carry on doing what I'm doing because I'm enjoying it. Ultimately, I'm at that point at the moment where I'm overly invested into everything I'm doing. I haven't quite reached the financial freedom point yet. It's coming, it will come eventually. I've got every faith in it's going to come, because we're putting all the right work in place, and I've got a lot of good projects in front of me that I've got to do. That will probably net me about at least $750,000 over the next 2 years, like for myself and my wife. So that's great. And the vision from there, once I've successfully got knocked down a few of the projects I've got in front of me, I'd like to go into mentoring, Chris, to be honest.
That tends to be the journey, isn't it? When you've got all that experience and you've been in the
it's not just about property though. I mean, yeah, I can teach people how to build a business and build a house, but it's the mindset thing that I want to teach people about as well, and self-belief, because a lot of people struggle with self-belief and even thinking they can achieve things.
Imposter syndrome, that seems to be a common one. Like,
I get it, mate. I still get it. Do you know what I mean? I still think about it sometimes, and I have to go, "Come on, mate! Like you've earned your merit a little bit." You know what I mean?
You definitely have, especially your experience. But I'm like dipping my toe into property, and I've got a huge imposter syndrome about it. I'm like, fucking hell. I'm still yet to announce my company that I've fucking made. It's like, it's not a big deal. It's just a limited company.
So. Do it. No, yeah, I know what you mean, mate. Because I get it. I think we all do, and I think it goes back to that sort of cliche where say it's complacency. If you're too comfortable, you're not doing something. You're doing it wrong, aren't you? If you're feeling like you're out of your depth, you're doing something right. You're pushing yourself out your comfort zone. And I think you've got to do that to achieve in anything you're doing. You've got to start somewhere. Everything's new at some point, isn't it?
Every man needs purpose as well. Like, as soon as purpose is gone, it's a downhill trajectory from there. It's common with the guys that I help, actually.
Yeah, my vision is, my purpose, I feel like my purpose is to help others. And that's purely because I get so much fulfillment and value out of that.
Mm.
Getting a nice paycheck at the end of doing a job's lovely because that's why you do the job you do. But I don't get paid for the amount of phone calls and stuff that I take from people when they're asking for my advice or they're messaging me asking me for a bit of emotional support or whatever it is. I don't get paid for that. Do you know what I mean? But I do in kind. Do you know? And
Yeah.
it makes me feel good about myself when people feel like they can reach out to me for whatever reason, So again, if anyone's watching this that does want to chat, just message me.
Are you tall, Robbie, or not?
Yeah, I'm 6'3". I'm sat down. I'm not stood up.
Big friendly giant. That's why.
That's it. Yeah, no, that wouldn't be the first time I've been called that either, mate, to be fair.
So for anyone who's continued to listen to us, it's been a fascinating journey. He's took us on a roller coaster, like fucking hell.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I do babble sometimes.
I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's flowed really nicely. But just to recap and end this episode, like, what would be your last words on what you've been through and your resilient journey? It's been fucking resilient, to say the least.
You know what? I'd say it to anyone, and I'd say stay focused. If you've got a dream, chase it. Do you know what I mean? If you need to chase the dream, make sure it doesn't just stay as a dream. Set yourself a target, achieve that dream. Don't be afraid to take a risk. I'm a massive, massive, massive fucking risk taker. Like to the point where I'll go down to the wire.
Yeah.
I'll be minus in my bank, overdrawn, risk taking shit all the time. That's just what I'm like, and I live life by the seam of my fucking boxer shorts, because I've experienced loss. I think it's taught me that tomorrow isn't promised, and I'm not afraid to take a risk and live life like it's like every day's your last, and that's what I'd say to anyone, really. What they call it, calculated risk.
Calculated risk, yeah. Do your due diligence first.
Yeah, do your due diligence. Obviously, don't. I've been known to jump in balls deep a few times and got burnt. But yeah, take risks, but do your due diligence first. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for your time, Robbie. This has been an awesome episode.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the offer.
Yeah. Cool. Right, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.
Cheers, mate. See you later.